What's going on, guys? Tre'Leon Bay here. In today's topic, we're talking about lease option contracts. When it comes down to lease option contracts, there's actually a few different contracts that I suggest that you use. Us at our team, we use different contracts than we do with the seller than we do with the actual tenant buyer. And so how I like to separate them is with the seller's contracts, I call them A to B contracts. And with the tenant buyer's contracts, I call those B to C contracts. And that's really if you're doing a sandwich lease option, which is a little different if you're going to wholesale the lease option, meaning that you're not going to stay in between the deal. You're just going to actually contract with the seller, and then you're going to find a tenant buyer, and then you're going to step out of the deal. So your contracts will be a little different. It'll be more so like A to B contracts and then A to C contracts, because the seller will actually be contracting with the buyer, not you. Now, you can contract with the buyer and then assign your rights over to the seller if you choose to do so, but there's a lot of different methods that you can choose if you want to wholesale the lease option versus if you want to sandwich the lease option, which is what me and my wife love to do. And so we really like the sandwich lease option because we actually get a chance to be the landlord without actually taking title to the property. So we get the same benefits of being a landlord. We'll get the cash flow. We'll even get better benefits from being a landlord because we don't have to worry about any maintenance of the property. We get to get paid before the tenant actually moves in, and we get paid again when a tenant actually purchases the property. So that's three different ways that we'll be able to get paid, and as well we'll be able to get to be the benefits of being a landlord. So we really love the sandwich lease option, and that's what we mainly do. We actually control over $2.3 million worth of real estate using the lease option strategy, and so we really do love the sandwich lease option. So let's talk a little bit about the contracts. The A to B contract, which is the contract between you and the seller. There's one main contract that you'll need. That's just a simple lease option contract. It's going to state in there that you have the right to lease the property as well as the option to purchase it. And it's also going to have a lot of the language in there that says that you're able to assign your rights to either be able to resell or to be able to lease out the property, which is cool, because then you'll be able to wholesale the property if it comes down to it. If it comes down to it and you really have to get rid of the property for a discounted price, you also have that option using the lease option contract. And so we really do like that one. Now, there is a second contract that you can use with the seller depending on the situation. It's called a memorandum. If you have the seller actually, sometimes you don't even need the seller to sign the memorandum. Sometimes you will have the seller sign a memorandum. But the memorandum is mainly used if you want to actually file your lease option with the county of where the house is located. And so that way, if the seller tries to say that you don't have the rights to do what you've done, you have it on record, filed with the county, that you do have the right to be able to lease option this property. You have control over it, and so that way there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And so I usually don't use the memorandum because a lot of times when I'm working with the seller, we totally have a trust factor going on. I make sure I'm working with the right person. I don't like doing a sandwich lease option if it's with the owner that is kind of iffy or they have a lot going on. There's several times where me and my wife have gotten to a lease option with the seller, and after about a year or two, we decide to let go of the property because the relationship just isn't going right, or the seller just has a lot going on and they can't really handle the situation. And so we would much rather be stress-free and deal with other sellers rather than hold on to a whole bunch of properties if it's going to stress us out. Again, we're about having a freedom lifestyle. That's why we're called freedom lifestyle investors. And so we really do value our time, we value our peace, and we value our energies when it comes down to it. And so with the memorandum, you can have that as an option. If you totally want to protect yourself, you can actually file that with the county. Otherwise, with the seller, you just really need one contract. And our lease option contract is actually it's one page, it's one legal size page. But if you don't have a legal size paper, then it ends up being 2 pages of the lease option contract that you sign with the seller. Now, on the flip side, then you have the other contracts that you'll deal with the tenant buyer. And with the tenant buyer, we actually have six different paperworks that we actually have with the tenant buyer. And so I'll go over them with you. I'll go over all of them with you. The first thing that we'll have with the tenant buyer is we'll have them fill out an application. And the application that we have is totally different than filling out a regular lease option, a regular lease application. It's totally different than a lease application because a lot of the language that we have in there, we really want to know about the person because we're building a relationship with this person. We're going to be having a longer term relationship probably, and then we also want to see what state they're in and whether or not they'll be close to being able to purchase the home or whether they're really far from being able to purchase the home, so that we can make a determination on whether or not we even want to accept this person as a tenant buyer. And so it's totally different than, I remember when I was a real estate agent and I was a leasing agent, and I just wanted to find anybody who was willing to lease the house that had money and just get them in the house quickly because I didn't have to deal with them afterwards. I was totally out of the deal. When it comes down to lease options, because I'm standing in the middle of the deal, I'm actually the landlord, I have control over the property, I'll be dealing with that person one-on-one for some time. We really take our time and we really find out about the person, we find out about their lifestyle, we build a relationship with them, and we really want to know whether or not they're close to being able to finance the home and how far they are. Now the good thing with lease options is that they don't have to have good credit. We can help them to get into a credit repair program, but we do want to make sure that they're in a homeowner state of mind, they'll be able to take care of the maintenance of the home, and also they're not too far as credit is concerned, and they can actually end up purchasing the home in a year or two. We would prefer that. And so the first thing we have them do is fill out an application, and I think the biggest thing in our application is we have in bright red that, you know, we really want you to be truthful on this application. We value truth more than anything. So long as you're upfront with the situation that you're in, because we pretty much we're able to give you a second chance or second chance program, we would rather you be upfront with things than for you to hide things, because that shows us if you hide a lot of things when it comes down to your credit or when it comes down to your situation, then we know you're not going to be a good person to work with throughout this time, because you're going to end up hiding other things or lying and things like that. And so we do recommend people to just tell us everything up front, and that language actually does help us when it comes down to people signing the application or filling out the application. They do end up being truthful because we have that in bright red. And so we have some other things on our application too, but I'll leave that for another time. The other thing that we do after we have the application with the person and we approve of them, they'll put down earnest money for the property, and sometimes we'll have them sign an earnest money agreement that basically states that you're giving us this amount for this reason, and sometimes it'll have an out clause where they have a certain amount of time to be able to inspect the property and things like that, so that way they know that we're serious in the deal. And so we do have them sign an earnest money agreement most of the time. And then also when it comes down to them moving in, then we'll have other contracts that we'll sign with them. We'll have them sign a financial statement, and it's a financial summary basically, and it just summarizes all of the funds that has been paid already, and then all of the funds that they'll have to pay in the future prior to moving in, and so that is really clear and broken down about how much they're actually putting in all together, where everything is going, and that's signed by both people, so that way they can see that this is it's almost like a receipt that they receive for giving us the money, and that shows that you're professional. It shows that you're the real deal and you're an actual company when it comes down to that. Now, after the tenant buyer is ready to move in, they've already signed the financial agreement, they've already filled out their application and have gotten approved. After that, we'll have them complete the lease, which is separate than the actual option to purchase agreement. So we'll have them sign the lease agreement. The lease agreement is about 5 or 6 pages, but we have a lot of different language in there that basically describes their responsibilities as well as the responsibilities of the actual owner of the home, so that everybody is very clear, and so that contract is really thorough. We also have them sign a credit repair addendum, and the addendum is basically telling them that they have to sign up for a credit repair program for at least 6 months while they're in the home, or at least until their credit is repaired enough to be able to finance the home. All right, so we have that as an addendum, so that way they know that it's serious. They know that if they break that part of the contract, then we have the right to be able to get out of the contract because they haven't fulfilled that part of the deal. And that's it right there. That's the 6 contracts. We'll have them complete an application, fill out the earnest money deposit, the financial summary just showing what's being paid, what has already been paid, and what's their responsibilities going forward. Then we'll have them sign the lease agreement. Then we'll have them sign the option to purchase agreement, and that'll be able to fulfill all of their responsibilities and be very clear for them. If you have any questions about lease options contracts, or if you need some very thorough lease option contracts, just contact us below, or you sign up for our coaching program and you'll be able to get everything we got. All right, other than that, peace.